The year is 1941. German troops occupied Yugoslavia in just over 10 days. German garrisons were stationed in all major cities across the country to maintain order. The people, dissatisfied, especially in Serbia, rose up in rebellion, a rebellion that would lead to the first liberated city in World War II. On April 17th, Yugoslavia capitulated, and German forces remained stationed throughout its territory. By June of the same year, their numbers had decreased in Serbia. The Germans had only 3 divisions, as most of their forces were engaged on the Eastern Front and in the beginning of the campaign against the Soviets. With this development, the Communist Party of Yugoslavia saw an opportunity to launch an uprising in Serbia, and they soon did. Partisan detachments were quickly formed. Initially tasked with carrying out acts of sabotage and disrupting communication and transport routes of the occupiers, alongside the Communists, another movement emerged, the Chetnik movement, also known as the Royal Yugoslav Army in the homeland, led by Draža Mihailović. The Chetniks also joined the fight, but with more restraint. Mihailović, the leader of the movement, did not yet want to enter into open conflict with the occupiers, believing the moment was not right to start a full-scale resistance. On July 7th, 1941, in the town of Bela Crkva, 2 German gendarmes were killed by Zhikica Jovanović Španak, a communist fighter. This event is often considered the beginning of the armed uprising against the Germans. Not far from Loznica, in the Tronosha Monastery, an important meeting took place on August 30th, 1941. During this meeting, the decision was made to launch an attack on the Germans in Loznica and to begin the uprising in the Podrinje region. Present at the conference were Lieutenant Colonel Veselin Misita, artillery captain first class, the abbot of the monastery, and the British intelligence officer, engineer Herbert Muller. Lieutenant Colonel Veselin Misita, the highest-ranking Chetnik officer at the time, was chosen to command the operation against the Germans in Loznica. He led the Chetnik detachment, which numbered around 1,600 armed men. At that time, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Yugoslavia, Josip Broz Tito, was in Dedinje, Belgrade, from where he sent letters and instructions to party members. In Loznica, there were about 100 German soldiers from the 11th Company, 3rd Battalion of the 738th Infantry Regiment. They were well fortified in several key buildings: the House of Culture, Vuk's home, the local high school, and Laza Hajduković's tavern, in front of which they had set up a machine gun nest. Exactly at midnight, on the 30th of August 1941, the bells of the village churches near Loznica rang out. This was the agreed signal to begin the operation. During the night, all approaches to the town were closed, and the encirclement of the area was completed without much difficulty. At 8:30 the morning, a messenger was sent to call on the Germans to surrender. The Germans rejected this Chetnik demand. Because they refused to surrender, it was decided to attack them according to a prearranged plan. At 9 a.m., when the bells of the Loznica church rang and 7 rifle shots were fired, the agreed signal a general assault on the German positions began. In the first wave, the Germans entrenched in the cultural center were overpowered, after which those stationed in the high school also surrendered. Lieutenant Colonel Veselin Misita was killed while leading his men in person, throwing grenades at the Germans positioned in a bunker in front of L. Hajduković's tavern. He was struck down by a burst of machine gun fire. After his death, command was taken over by Captain Bogdan Duljacha and the abbot of the Tronosha Monastery, Georgije Bojic. By nightfall, everything was over. All the Germans had surrendered. In the fighting for the liberation of Loznica, 93 Germans were captured. A certain number were killed or wounded, and the rest were taken to the Tronosha Monastery, while the wounded were sent to a hospital. The captured Germans were treated humanely. All those in need received medical care. The Chetniks lost 8 men, including Lieutenant Colonel Veselin Misita, and 4 were wounded. A large quantity of weapons was seized. Lieutenant Georgije Bojic sent a report on the liberation of Loznica to Colonel Dragoljub Mihailović on Ravna Gora, who approved the further expansion of the uprising and operations against the Germans in the Podrinje region. After the liberation of Loznica, the Jadar Chetnik detachment regrouped to continue operations against the Germans in Podrinje. and, on the 1st of September 1941, attacked the German 3rd Battalion of the 738th Infantry Regiment in Banja Koviljača, the strongest German stronghold in the region, which was forced to withdraw after several days of fighting. During September 11 and 12, 1,941 mobilization of the able-bodied population was carried out in the villages of the Jadar region and in Loznica. At that time, the Jadar Chetnik detachment numbered about 5,000 men, though due to a lack of weapons, only about 2,500 were combat-ready. Thus, Loznica became the first liberated town in occupied Europe. Following these coordinated Chetnik partisan operations, a large part of Serbia was liberated, forming a vast insurgent territory known as the Užice Republic, named after the town of Užice, which stood at the center of the uprising. The uprising in Serbia lasted until the end of November, when German divisions transferred from France and the Eastern Front arrived and crushed the rebellion with such brutality that the insurgents would not be able to launch an uprising of this scale in Serbia again for the rest of the Stan War. From then on, most of the fighting shifted to other parts of Yugoslavia. Although brief, the liberation of Loznica, the first town in occupied Europe to be freed, sent a powerful message. It proved that even the mightiest armies could be challenged, and it ignited hope that would fuel countless acts of resistance across the continent. For the people of occupied Yugoslavia, Loznica became more than a victory. It became a symbol of defiance, courage, and unity in the face of overwhelming odds. News of its liberation spread quickly, inspiring fighters and civilians alike to believe that freedom was not a distant dream. Though the uprising would soon be crushed with brutal force, its spirit endured. The events in Loznica marked the beginning of a long struggle that would shape the fate of an entire nation. A reminder that even the smallest spark of resistance can light the path toward liberation.